My name is Alex. Fresh out of university, I was eager to make a difference, to connect people with opportunities. I joined Bright Future Staffing, a private recruitment agency that boasted a high success rate and glowing testimonials. Our office was always bustling with hopeful applicants, from fresh graduates to seasoned professionals, all seeking their next career step. We promised to find them the perfect fit, to open doors to better salaries and stable futures. I genuinely believed I was a bridge between talent and opportunity. But behind the polished reception desk and the stacks of promising resumes, Bright Future Staffing was a meticulously designed trap. It was a place where human aspiration was ruthlessly exploited, where unemployment became a weapon, and where every opportunity was a calculated move to extract money from the desperate. Looking back, I wasn't just matching candidates. I was an unwitting participant in a systematic exploitation of vulnerability, witnessing horrors that twisted the very meaning of helping others. My initial role was straightforward: interviewing candidates, matching them to job descriptions, and scheduling client meetings. But the first red flag was the emphasis on service fees paid by the job seeker, not the employer. While most legitimate agencies charged the hiring company, Bright Future Staffing had a strict policy of collecting substantial placement fees directly from the candidates, fees that were often illegal or at least highly unethical in our jurisdiction. Mr. Thorne, the agency director, a man with a booming laugh and an unervingly persuasive demeanor, would always say, "Alex, people value what they pay for. If they're truly serious about a job, they'll invest. And besides, who cares where the money comes from, as long as it comes?" "But Mr. Thorne," I once questioned, "some of these candidates are truly desperate. They don't have this kind of money up front." He just shrugged, his smile unwavering. "Then they're not serious enough. Or they can borrow. We even have partners who offer quick loans for our fees, with a small interest, of course." This quick loan scheme was another layer of the scam, pushing desperate job seekers deeper into debt. Then came the issue of fabricated job offers and exaggerated positions. We were often instructed to create ghost jobs, positions that didn't actually exist, to lure in more candidates. We'd advertise incredibly attractive roles with high salaries and great benefits. When candidates showed interest, we'd string them along with multiple interviews, extensive paperwork, and psychological tests, all designed to make the opportunity feel real and exclusive. After weeks, sometimes months, of this charade, they would finally be told that the position was filled internally or restructured. But conveniently, we had other opportunities for them, opportunities that always came with hefty, non-refundable fees. I remember a talented young engineer who had quit his stable job, believing he had secured a dream role through us. He paid a significant processing fee. After 3 months of false hopes, he was told the job was gone. He was devastated, unemployed, and now in debt. Mr. Thorne simply told me he'll learn to be more adaptable. And we got our fee. Win-win. The most egregious deception involved coercing candidates into undesirable or even dangerous jobs. For candidates who couldn't pay the full upfront fee, we would find them jobs that were often physically demanding, poorly paid, in remote locations, or even slightly illicit. These were typically roles that no one else would take. If they resisted, Mr. Thorne would pressure them, reminding them of the investment they had already made, threatening to blacklist them from the entire industry, or even implying legal action for breach of contract on the loan they took for our fee. The chilling realization dawned on me. We weren't a staffing agency. We were a human commodity broker. The professional facade, the promises of bright futures, they were all part of an elaborate charade. Every time I looked into the hopeful eyes of a job seeker, knowing the traps that lay ahead, I felt a cold knot in my stomach. The promise trap wasn't just about collecting fees. It was about systematically exploiting ambition and desperation, leading people down paths of financial ruin, and sometimes even into modern-day servitude, all for the sake of profit. The casual fraud of placement fees and ghost jobs at Bright Future Staffing was disturbing, but as I spent more time there, I uncovered a much darker, more sinister side to the recruitment game. The promise trap wasn't just about financial exploitation. It was about outright human exploitation, bordering on modern slavery. I started noticing a pattern with candidates who were particularly desperate, often immigrants, recent graduates with crippling student debt. or individuals from rural areas seeking a fresh start in the city. Mr. Thorne had a special program for them. These candidates would be placed into jobs that were vaguely defined, highly demanding, and often in remote or isolated locations. The contracts they signed were predatory, tying them to the employer for extended periods with minimal pay. Exorbitant deductions for accommodation or training, and strict clauses preventing them from leaving. I remember a young man named Ken, fresh off the bus from a small village, hoping to support his ailing parents. We placed him in a factory job far outside the city. His contract stipulated a ridiculously low wage, but the agency charged him a huge upfront fee, which he had to borrow at an astronomical interest rate from one of our partner lenders. 2 months later, he called me, sobbing. He was working 16-hour shifts, 7 days a week, in unsafe conditions. His accommodation was a cramped, filthy dormitory, and after deductions for food and rent, he was left with almost nothing. When he tried to leave, the factory manager threatened him, citing the contract and the debt he owed the agency. Mr. Thorne just shrugged when I brought it up. He signed the papers, Alex. A deal's a deal. Hard work builds character, right? Then came the issue of selling visas and facilitating illegal entry. This was the most shocking revelation. For desperate foreign nationals, or even local citizens wanting to work abroad, Bright Future Staffing offered exclusive work visas to countries like Japan, Korea, or even certain European nations. These visas were often fake, or at best, for jobs that didn't exist or were vastly different from what was promised. Candidates would pay tens of thousands of dollars, sell their homes, incur massive debts, only to arrive in a foreign country to find themselves stranded, their employers vanished, or forced into dangerous, illicit work to survive. I witnessed countless interviews where Mr. Thorne would paint a rosy picture of life abroad, high salaries, comfortable living, easy work. All lies. He was literally selling false hope, trapping people in a cycle of debt and often human trafficking. The bright future we promised was a dark, terrifying abyss for these victims. The agency also had a strong network of referral partners, other agencies or individuals who would bring in particularly desperate or vulnerable candidates. These partners would get a hefty commission for each successful placement, ensuring a continuous supply of victims. It was a well-oiled machine of exploitation, operating under the guise of legitimate recruitment. The pressure to remain silent, to be a passive participant in these crimes, became unbearable. My colleagues, numbed by the high commissions and the pervasive culture of greed, simply saw these candidates as numbers, as opportunities for profit. Don't get emotional, Alex, they'd advise. It's not our problem once they sign. We provide a service, they pay for it. Simple. But it wasn't simple. It was abhorrent. My sleep became restless, haunted by the desperate faces of applicants, the sobbing pleas of those trapped in exploitative jobs, and the cold, calculating smile of Mr. Thorne. I started seeing the resumes not as lives, but as commodities, and the job offers not as opportunities, but as chains. The promised trap was no longer just a metaphor. It was a horrifying reality, a systematic dehumanization, turning dreams into debt and freedom into servitude. I knew I couldn't continue. The thought of looking another hopeful candidate in the eye, knowing the abyss they might be walking into, became a torment. The weight of my silent complicity was crushing me. Every polished desk, every smiling poster promising success, felt like a lie designed to ensnare. I saw the desperate hopes in the eyes of the job seekers, hopes that Mr. Thorne and his network ruthlessly exploited. I knew I couldn't be a part of this human trafficking masquerading as recruitment any longer. My conscience screamed louder than any financial gain. The final breaking point arrived with a phone call. It was Ken, the young man from the village I had helped place in that factory. His voice was faint, ragged. He had managed to escape and was hiding, terrified, trying to get back home. He recounted horrors of physical abuse, starvation, and constant threats. He wasn't just being exploited. He was being held captive, essentially a slave. Hearing his story, his raw terror, shattered any remaining illusion I had about bright future staffing. I realized that my continued presence, even in silence, made me complicit in his suffering and the suffering of countless others. That evening, I didn't go home. Instead, I drove straight to a small, independent labor rights organization I had found online. I walked in, my hands trembling, my mind a storm of fear and resolve. The next morning, I walked straight into Mr. Thorne's office. He was already barking orders into his phone, his usual jovial mask firmly in place. "Mr. Thorne," I stated, my voice shaking slightly, but firm and clear. "I'm resigning. And I'm going to report everything." He slowly hung up, his eyes narrowing into cold, predatory slits. "Resigning, Alex? And talking? You think it's that easy? You're a fool. You've seen too much. You know how powerful we are. Your career, your reputation, your very safety, it will all be gone. You'll be blacklisted from every agency, every company. And remember, we know where you live. People who cross us have a way of disappearing or finding their lives suddenly, dramatically ruined." He leaned back, a chilling, humorless smile spreading across his face. "Be smart, Alex. Be silent." His threats were terrifying, a cold hand squeezing my heart. But the image of Ken's terrified face and the countless victims of this promised trap gave me an unyielding resolve. "I don't care," I said, meeting his gaze squarely. "I won't be silent anymore. Not for you. Not for anyone." I turned and walked out, leaving behind the stacks of resumes, the false promises, and the toxic aura of exploitation. I didn't look back. I left my agency ID on the reception desk, shedding the last vestiges of bright future staffing. I knew the fight ahead would be long and dangerous, but I had already taken the first, most crucial step. It's been a year since I left. I'm now actively working with the labor rights organization, helping to investigate and expose fraudulent recruitment schemes. The work is dangerous and often frustrating, but every time we help a victim escape, every time we shut down a predatory agency, I feel like I'm finally fulfilling the promise I once made to myself, to truly help people find their bright future free from exploitation. Yet, the shadows of bright future staffing still linger. Every time I see a desperate job advertisement, every time I hear a story of a young person falling into a debt trap for a guaranteed job, a cold dread washes over me. The faces of the job seekers whose hopes were exploited, whose dreams were monetized and then shattered, their freedom turned into servitude. They are the true ghosts of the promised trap. Haunting reminders of the dark underbelly where the quest for a better life can lead to the deepest forms of human misery. My experience in the recruitment and job placement industry revealed a terrifying truth. The very path to a better life can be paved with deception and exploitation. Unscrupulous agencies prey on your desire for employment, your hopes for stability, and your urgent need for income, turning your ambition into their profit, often at your ultimate expense. So, how can you protect yourself from the promised trap? Always remember to never pay upfront fees to a recruitment agency. Legitimate agencies typically charge the employer, not the job seeker. Thoroughly research any agency you're considering. Look for independent reviews, check their licensing with local labor departments, and investigate any complaints filed against them. Be extremely wary of job offers that seem too good to be true. Unusually high salaries for simple roles, or promises of guaranteed visas without clear, official processes. Always verify job offers directly with the actual company that is supposedly hiring, not just through the agency. Read every clause of any contract carefully before signing, especially those related to fees, deductions, and terms of employment. If possible, seek independent legal advice. And most importantly, if you feel pressured, threatened, or if any part of the process seems unethical or illegal, trust your instincts and walk away immediately. Your freedom, your financial well-being, and your safety are too important to risk on a false promise. If Alex's story made you look at your job search a little differently, remember to like this video, share this crucial warning with everyone you know, and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another stark revelation. We'll continue to expose the hidden dangers in every profession. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and remember, not every opportunity leads to a brighter future.